There's a space in my heart I can find the truth. Find me in you, a truth beyond what you missing now. When we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself, where you come from, there is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. See with new eyes, allow an unfold, embrace and let go. Trust the flow. There's a freedom and love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we can ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, there is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out. Slowly feel all that's around you. All that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are and let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here. Connect, grow, serve and give. Living life where you belong. Connect, grow, serve and give. Loving everyone. You belong. You belong. Yes, you do. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Penelope. That was absolutely beautiful. Very heart-centered, heartfelt. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. You are welcome here. My name is Reverend Ursula Lentini, and I'm proudly serving here at the Spiritual Living Center. We're a center that educates and engages the seeker on their spiritual path. As members of a global movement, Centers for Spiritual Living, our mission is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. Our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And our vision is a world that works for everyone. We are grateful for your presence. Now we're going to move into a call to service. So please join me. How I choose to think creates my personal experience. Therefore, I choose to think affirmatively. I choose to speak affirmatively. I choose to live affirmatively. Not only is this my right, it's my responsibility as a conscious being. I allow myself to be guided, used, and available for the reawakening of everyone's magnificence. The moment is now, and I say yes. And together we say, and so it is.
All right. Good morning again, everyone. Thank you, Reverend Ursula. Beautiful opening. Thank you, Penelope, for opening song. As you can see, everybody watching on Facebook and on YouTube this morning, we are live in the sanctuary, and we are getting ready for our July 4th opening to welcome you into this space and to continue to reach out and welcome everybody watching. We see you online checking in from California and Texas and Missouri and Arkansas and Oregon, all over the place. So welcome to each of you. If I missed you or if you're new here, please make yourself known in the chat this morning. We're so glad to have you. Let me tell you some of the things that are happening, ways to connect, grow, serve, and give in our community this morning. Let's begin with giving. We're so grateful for the circulation that comes into our community through our circulation. Ways to give, text. To give is the easiest way, or go directly to our website, slca.com/donations. Text to give, the phone number is on your screen. It's just like texting a friend. Text the number that you want to give directly to that phone number, and it will prompt you with all the information you need. And once you've done that once, you only need to do it once. Next time you can just give the dollar amount, and it'll automatically know what to do. It's all secure. We don't see any of your credit card information. It's all secure behind the scenes, and we are so grateful for everyone who chooses to circulate, who chooses to make a monthly contribution on a regular basis. We are supported and sustained by your love and your contributions, so thank you so much. We'll do our affirmation for our grateful giving a little bit later on in the service. We want you to know that every Tuesday evening you can tune in on Zoom with Reverend Ursula Lentini, one of our staff ministers here. You just heard her do the opening and call the service. She does a twin heart meditation. That's on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Beautiful experience to just center, nice thing in the beginning of the week to ground yourself in some spiritual practice. So check out the link for the Zoom information or registration information for that. On Sunday mornings, every Sunday morning, we have adult study at 9 a.m. on Zoom. This has been going on forever. This is a great way to wake up early, get in some deep dialogue for about an hour that's facilitated by our practitioners. And the focus there is around the Science of Mind magazine and the daily readings in there. So check that out on Sunday mornings. We have a capital campaign going on that is, we're partnering with our global organization, Centers for Spiritual Living. You may have seen some information in emails and heard announcements that we are in the process of purchasing, for the first time ever as an organization, our own camp retreat facility for our teens, and also to use for adult events and that sort of thing as well. It's in Vernonia, Oregon. When I was camp director, we had a national teen camp there a number of years ago, and it was great fun, and we're just so honored to have this opportunity to purchase this property. So the way that's working is individuals like you, like me, all over the country are making contributions, large and small. We have somebody pledging to that campaign at $5 a month. So you can do $50, $100, whatever feels good to you. Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta has already committed $5,000 out of our tithing and circulation, and we're asking our congregation to match that. So make your contribution in whatever dollar amount you choose, and that will go towards the match of our $5,000 gift to this campaign. And we're encouraging our other Centers for Spiritual Living communities to do the same, and we're well on our way. I know we're past the $500,000 mark on the goal for that campaign. So go to csl.org. You'll find information about the camp. You'll see the photos, all the information there, and the ways to donate. And if you want to make sure it gets connected to our contribution, just put Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta in the memo line on the donation page, and that will be the way to pair that up. All right. Wednesday nights, beginning in July, I'm going to be doing a online Zoom meeting for about, I forgot how many weeks, through August there, so however many weeks that is, I think it's about 8 weeks, called Begin Again. And this is based off of the book called Begin Again by Eddie Glaude Jr., who's a Morehouse graduate. This book is about the work of James Baldwin and speaking about our current times that we are living in and contextualizing James Baldwin's work in the political and social atmosphere that we're currently in. It's an amazing book, and I just wanted to bring some new thought and spiritual perspective and dialogue around it. So that'll be the curriculum, will be the book. It'll be an open conversation, and it's just a great way to kind of connect on Wednesday night. So join me for that love offering starting on July 7th. And then finally today, practitioners are always available for prayer. They are in the chat. They're watching online just like you are today, and they're available to you, whether it's YouTube or Facebook. Just let yourself be known that you would like prayer today, and we'll connect you with one of our trained prayer practitioners who will connect with you and make that happen. So we're so grateful. Please don't leave this collective space that we are creating together without receiving the support that you need in your life to celebrate something, to get a boost in the arm spiritually about something, or just let something off your chest and just know that somebody else has got it for you. That's what our beloved practitioner community does, and they're available to do it today. Thank you all for being here today. We're so excited. Please take a moment to tag and share this broadcast on your social media feeds as we go throughout the morning. Let people know that something great is happening here. We're so glad that you're joining us because you belong at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. Good morning.
I want to acknowledge the composer of this song is Nathan Aswell, a beautiful composer and a good friend of our community in Canada, okay? This is his song, To Love. In this time and in this place is the grace to love. With these hands and with this heart, I can start to love, to love, to love, to love. I've been bruised and I've been burned. Still I yearn to love. So I'll forget and I'll forget, pay my debts to love, to love, to love, to love, to love. I may win, and I may lose. Still, I choose to love. I may stand, and I may fall. Still, I will give my all to love. Yes, to love, to love, to love, to love, to love. Yeah. So it is.
So beautiful. Thank you again, Penelope. If your heart's not open now. So, this is the affirmative prayer where we prepare to receive. Similar to sitting at a table and a beautiful meal is about to be served. And what's being served here is love, truth, awareness, responsibility. So, unfold your body, open yourself to receive. There's one consciousness that's beating our heart and breathing our lungs, and it has the qualities of life. That's flowing through you right now. And as a community, when we gather together in this consciousness, we raise our vibration. And the highest vibration is love. Focus on your heart and the gratitude that you have, all the beauty, this opportunity to come out back into the world and asking ourselves, how shall I re-engage? And the invitation is with love. Choosing now to come out with love. Like the song said, no matter what's going on, I choose love. Feel that. Feel how when we're in a place of love, it's comfortable, it's easy, it's familiar, it's correct. Inhaling through the crown, breathing that love in, circulating it around our heart, and exhaling it through our arms and legs. I am love. Everybody is love, even if they're not acting like it. Maybe they need more love. Feeling it, enjoying it. Gratitude is a form of love, an expression of love. It's a feeling. Conveying gratitude for our life, community, inspirational messages, support, awakening together. We release this into the consciousness in full faith, and so it is. Amen.
There is so much love with every prayer. I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. As I open and allow, I know right here and now, I create a world where wonders never cease. With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. Yes, through me, each of us.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm in the building. I'm expecting people to to hear something back, but we're going to have that happen really, really soon. We didn't make that one of our announcements, but July 4th, holiday weekend, we're joyfully anticipating you coming into this space, those of you who are in the greater Atlanta area. And of course, we're broadcasting out everywhere and continuing to create a great experience for everyone who's joining in wherever you tune in from. Today, we are continuing this month's theme, which is the soul's call, and I'm so grateful to Kat Kim, who delivered a powerful message last week. Absolutely wonderful. If you didn't get a chance to catch that, please tune in. Dealing with the discontent, she was the right person to pick for that, and just delivered a wonderful message. And so, as we continue this theme today about the soul's call all month long, today's topic is what's evolution without love? What is evolution without love? Because we're on a soul journey of evolving and expanding our hearts and minds. And so we'll talk about the power of love in the midst of that evolutionary process. A couple of things we want to try to weave in today, right? It's Pride Month, and this particular weekend, I know in a lot of cities across the country, there's Pride parades and festivals and things happening. So we want to make sure we say a big shout out of Happy Pride to everywhere that is celebrating Pride. It's Father's Day weekend and Father's Day today. We want to weave that in. And then yesterday, we celebrated our very first new national holiday, Juneteenth, which was signed into law and into a national holiday just on the Wednesday before. So we're so excited and honored to acknowledge that this morning as well. So a lot of things to weave in there this morning. We'll get all of those in. I want to begin with Father's Day. You'll notice this this robe behind me. It's a doctoral hood and robe, and I'll tell that story here. Earlier this week, I got in the mail from Betty Henderson, who's the wife and the widow of my childhood minister, Reverend Dr. Bob Henderson. And so my mother found religious science community in Phoenix, Arizona in the late 70s through a coworker. I think I've told this story several times, but through sharing of the Science Mind magazine and then inviting her to this community. So all those extra copies you bought of me and my wife's face on the cover of the magazine, right? When you give that to a friend, a coworker, a neighbor, that's a great way to invite people and tell them about our teaching and our community. That's how my mother found this teaching. And then eventually that led to the invitation to come to community, which was the Valley of the Sun Church of Religious Science in Phoenix, Arizona. And so that Dr. Bob Henderson was the minister there. He was minister to my mother, and oversaw the program that I grew up in as a child, and then as a preteen, and then we moved to Albuquerque after that. But we stayed in touch over the years, and just recently she called me and she said, "How would you like to have Dr. Bob's robe and doctoral hood, and I was just blown away. And she sent me a bunch of other things as well. His pastoral care book, which has the records of his baptisms and weddings and funerals in it. His hood from his master's degree, and then she took the time to inscribe this on the inside of the robe. She had somebody put this in here, and it says, this doctoral robe belonged to the Reverend Dr. Robert H. Henderson, BA, MA, and DD. And this hood is for the Doctor of Divinity. Beloved Science of Mind minister from 1974 to 2018. Bequeathed to Reverend Dr. David Alexander. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Now, the reason I'm bringing it for Father's Day is because as we go into an acknowledgement of all of the aspects of fatherhood and how it shows up for us, father is not just a noun, right? It's not just a role that you play. I want you to think of fathering in the sense of a verb, right? What are you fathering in the world, right? Whether you're male or female or non-binary or wherever you are, right? What are you fathering in the world? And to father something means to take responsibility for. Dr. Bob Henderson was fathering a community as a spiritual leader. He was responsible for. He did not teach my Sunday school class. He did not, there was a time period where I went with my mother into the service and sat with her instead of going to the youth programs. But he was not responsible directly for the curriculum or the volunteers or the people who I interacted with as a kid, but he was fathering that spiritual community. And when you take responsibility for something, you never know what the impact of that responsibility is going to be, right? He didn't know that there was some kid sitting who's, by the way, a very quiet kid, complete opposite of my youngest son, right? Complete opposite. I was quiet and shy and didn't talk to anybody. Hid behind the legs of my mother, right? He didn't know that quiet little mousy kid, roaming around the church would one day be a minister in the same teaching and movement and be someone that his wife could pass on his legacy of record to. So you never know what you're fathering, but when you take responsibility, you step into something. So I want you to be mindful of that as we move throughout today's message. So let's begin with an acknowledgement of fatherhood. I want you to, and I acknowledge that we all have, as I do, different levels of relationship with fatherhood and our own fathers. My birth father was not in my life in an active and supportive way. And I have an amazing stepfather who stepped in when I was about 13 years old and was really more of a best friend than he was a father figure. Still in my life today, I'm extremely grateful for. So all of the spectrum, wherever you are on that, in your relationship with your father or the mentors, the father figures, the guides, the teachers, let's take in just a moment of honoring for all of those individuals this morning. So as you take a breath, and let's praise those fathers, first and foremost, who have striven to balance the demands of work and marriage and children with an honest awareness of both the joy and the sacrifice of that task. Let's take a moment to praise those fathers who, lacking a good model for a father figure, have worked hard to become a good father. Let us praise those fathers who, by their own account, were not always there for their children, but continue to offer those children, now grown, their love and their support. Let us pray for those fathers who have been wounded by the neglect and hostility of their children. Let us pray for those fathers who, despite divorce, have remained active in their children's lives. Let us pray for those fathers whose children are adopted and whose love and support has offered healing. Let us praise those fathers who, as stepfathers, freely choose the obligation of fatherhood and earn their stepchildren's love and respect. Let us pray for those fathers who have lost a child to death and continue to hold that child in their heart. And let us praise those men who have no children, but cherish the next generation as if they were their own. Let us praise those men who have fathered us in their roles as mentors and guides. Let us praise those men who are about to become fathers. May they openly delight in their children. And let us praise those fathers who have passed on, but live in our memory and whose love continues to nurture us. And so it is. And so as we begin to weave all of these themes in today, and looking at evolution, and I keep thinking of the Tina Turner song, "What's Love Got to Do with It?" It's what's evolution without love? But it really sounds like "What's Love Got to Do with It?" doesn't it? How did that not become one of our songs today? I have no idea. But as we begin to look at this, we begin with the fundamental premise that spirit is always spirit. Spirit is always spirit. God is always God. That's there's a universal intelligence that is always there, just doing what it's doing. And it is we as its creations, as manifestations, as particular points of articulation within the divine that are growing in our awareness. We're growing in our understanding. We're growing in our relationship to this presence, which doesn't change, right? This presence, which is always there. It changes. We say it changes. We say that it's evolving, but what's true is that our awareness of it is evolving. We're beginning to see, just like in the universe, they're saying, well, the universe is expanding. Well, I tend to think, it's a tricky conversation because you got to really look at, NASA and all of that stuff. And what is actually, I think, more accurate is the instruments we use are getting better, right? They say the universe is expanding. Well, we can see more. Well, yeah, you got new cameras, right? It's like, yeah, it's evolving because our awareness and our tools and our capacity to connect is evolving. So we begin with this fundamental premise that spirit is always spirit. What's growing is our relationship to it. And it's akin to love in a marriage or in a relationship, that love is always there. If the relationship is strong and true, love is always there. But our relationship to it, our relationship with it, our relationship as it changes and grows, right? Couples come to me and they say they're struggling with their marriage, or something is flat or lifeless in the relationship. It's often not the love that brought them together. It's their individual relationship to that love, right? It's how they're relating to it. They've dropped off. They've forgotten. They've gotten out of a pattern or out of a habit of remembering and bringing that life. But very often the love is still there. It's our relationship to it that has to change, right? What we're saying here is this. You are an eternal spiritual being. You're on an eternal quest to discover, an infinite eternal quest of discovery, unfoldment, expansion, development, right? You are an eternal spiritual being that is forever and ever expanding in the awareness of yourself. Thank God, right? Thank God, right? If I had people in the crowd, I'd say, touch a neighbor and say, thank God you are still growing, right? There's a beautiful song, gospel song, Albertina Walker. You know Albertina Walker? Albertina Walker. Please be patient with me, because God is not through with me yet, right? Please be patient with me because God is not through with me yet. It's a great song. If you don't know it, you got to look it up. Play it this afternoon, because it speaks to that evolutionary nature, right? I'm still growing, right? Like I said, if I were people here, I'd touch your neighbor and say, thank God you're still growing, right? And they get to say to you, thank God you're still growing, right? God's not through with us. And I love that song. It goes on and it says, and when he gets through with me, yeah, this is the anthropomorphization of God there, but when the universe gets through with me, but in the song it says, when he gets through with me, I will come forth like pure gold, right? I will come forth like pure, but that's not yet, right? God's not through with me yet. And she goes on and she starts preaching in the song. And she's like, I may not talk the way you want me to talk. I may not do the things you want me to do. I may not say the things you want me to say, but please be patient with me because God is not through with me yet. So we've come to discover that our evolutionary relationship works like this, that we are constantly expanding. That's why spiritual community is so important. It's an opportunity to breathe, to check in, to just see what's going on here. What's new that's trying to emerge through me. What's been knocking at the door of my attention that I haven't been able to hear because I've been too busy with other things. Right? We have all learned so much about that through COVID and through this year that maybe, especially in the beginning, we got to slow down and listen maybe to some things that were knocking, and the daily routine of the commute to work and all of the other things got to quiet down for a minute so that we could hear, hopefully. Now those things are beginning to pick back up again. And so now it's a perfect time to ask ourselves to go into spiritual community and spiritual practice and say, what is still trying to come forth within us? And so we're in a relationship with this eternal thing. And our relationship can be examined really, as I've learned to kind of grow in my understanding and articulation of it over the years. It's can be understood through two doorways, if you will, through avenues, two avenues. One is our wholeness, a relationship with our wholeness, our sense of wholeness, and two, our relationship with our sense of belonging. Right. So one is the relationship with my wholeness. If where am I in relationship to this idea that there is a spirit within me that is whole, perfect, and complete? That thing that is an eternal part of my being and is that part of me that is eternal. It is beyond this body. It's beyond these circumstances. It's beyond whether my father was in my life or not. It's beyond whether this relationship is good or bad. It's beyond the job. It's beyond all of those things. It's that thing which is, it's the I am that I am that I am. And it's whole, perfect, and complete. What is my relationship to that? How am I aware? And what am I doing to bring that in and to invite it to live in, through, and as me? That's our relationship to our wholeness. And our teaching, New Thought teaching, has such a beautiful way of inviting people and encouraging people to grow and develop in that sense, right? And the second avenue is through this sense of belonging. Where am I in this greater idea that I belong to the universe in which I live, right? That wherever I go, I am home because everything around me is also God, Spirit, infinite intelligence. And so Spirit's trying to get our attention through both of these aspects, our wholeness and our sense of belonging. And that evolutionary journey is rooted in this principle of love. It's rooted in this principle of love. And we need to understand love as this, as Dr. Ernest Holmes described it, as this cosmic force whose sweep is irresistible. Love is a cosmic force whose sweep is irresistible, he said. And it is, he defined it as the self-givingness of spirit to itself, for itself. Love is the eternal givingness of itself to itself. He goes on to say, for the sake of its own expression. In other words, the universe, we'll put it this way, the universe so loved itself that it wanted to know itself as you. The universe so loved itself, the infinite creativity, the infinite capacity to express as personality and a body and a life that you never existed before this moment. And it wanted to know more of itself, so it made you. And it made everything around you. It made the universe and the stars and the trees and music and all the flavors of food and life and creation, right? It wanted to know itself. What about this? And what about that, right? Now that music's good, but what about this kind, right? That person and those folks are great, but what about these kind? Infinite self-givingness of itself to its creation. Holmes says in The Science of Mind text, he says, evolution is the awakening of the soul to a recognition of its unity with the whole. Evolution is the awakening of the soul to a recognition of its unity with the whole. He goes on in that same section to say, the aim of evolution is to produce a human who, at the point of his or her objective thought, may completely manifest the whole idea of life, may bring unity to the point of particularization, finding nothing in the law to oppose it. Now, there's a lot to break down in that particular quote, so we're going to take some time to do it. The aim of evolution, if you're playing along at home, this is on page 337 in the Science of Mind textbook. The aim of evolution is to produce a human who, at the point of his or her, I'll add here to make it more inclusive, his or her objective thought may completely manifest the whole idea of life, may bring unity to the point of particularization, finding nothing in the law to oppose it. That's a really fancy way of saying you are the place where God shows up, right? Holmes had a way of making things maybe a little bit more complicated, but brilliant at articulating deep and profound thoughts in these short sentences. But so if we want to make it a little simpler, we simply say, you are the place where God shows up. Let's break that down. The whole point is to produce one who could, through their objective thought, completely manifest the whole idea of life. What is the whole idea of life? It's the question they asked Jesus. What is the whole idea of life? And he said, what? He gave an answer. He said, love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your being. Love your neighbor as yourself, right? Love. Love is the whole idea of life. Love your connection, your relationship with the infinite creative intelligence of the universe, and love each other as you understand that relationship. But it begins with your relationship with the divine, right? That one may bring unity to the point of particularization. Oh, I love this. I love this part of the quote. To bring unity to the point of particularization. That means to contextualize the principle within your particular lived experience. Right? You know, see, he took time to say that the whole idea of evolution is to bring this awareness to that we might manifest the whole idea of life, which is we're saying is to love ourselves, to love God, to bring that love forward, and then that we might bring unity. But notice it's not generalized. Notice it's not this universal unity, kumbaya, all is good, all is well. He says to bring unity to the point of particularization. In other words, the whole idea of evolution is for you to be able to bring a unity consciousness, a consciousness that you are one with God, and so is everyone and everything else. But can you bring that forward in this moment in front of this person that you don't agree with? Right? In this moment that's confronting you, in this challenge in the social sector, to the point of particularization, not generalization, not walking around saying God is all there is, and letting yourself off the hook, right? I support everybody. I love it. Let everybody do their thing, right? But then you get mad at the grocery person or the person who cut you off in traffic or the whatever. No, to bring unity to a particular point of particularization, to contextualize the principle within your personal lived experience. And whether Ernest Holmes intended it or not, we could argue about, but this is a very justice-oriented way of saying, bring unity to the world. Because to make it a point of particularization means to contextualize it and to look at the forms of injustice that are happening around us and say, can we bring unity to that? Right? Can we bring unity to LGBTQI plus awareness? Can we bring unity to race relations in America? Can we bring unity to all of these forms of inclusion that we're looking at today? Can we bring unity to these particular things? Can we look at this injustice? And can we bring unity forward right here? And then he says, and then finding nothing in the law to oppose it. right? The whole quote again. The whole aim of evolution is to produce a human who, at the point of his or her objective thought, may completely manifest the whole idea of life, which we said is love, may bring unity to the point of particularization, just to contextualize in your lived experience, and then find nothing in the law to oppose it. Nothing in the law to oppose it. Why? Because the universe is inclusive. The universe is all that there is. The infinite intelligence is all that there is. Loving the whole and complete expression of life. The law is one, where the center is everywhere and the circumference is nowhere. Right? Believe in a God, Ernest Holmes said, whose center is everywhere and circumference is nowhere. The center is in you, and the center is in me, and the center is in him and her and them and they and over there. And the circumference is nowhere because it encompasses everything. And there's nothing in the law to oppose it. And so it becomes a very clear roadmap that he's given us through this particular quote to understand how we bring love, unity, how we evolve, how we bring more love into the world through our own evolutionary nature, through our expanded consciousness, that our collective soul call is anchored in this Father's Day message, right? That there's an evolution within the whole Father's Day concept, right? Fathers who are often praised or vilified for their production, right? For their performance, production or lack thereof, performance or lack thereof, their doingness in the world. But I would invite us to be aware of the idea that if we are called to bring a new humanity to the planet, if we're called for the soul's call to evolve through us, we must also bring forward a new masculinity, one that isn't praised or vilified solely based on performance, but one that is anchored in the ontological beingness. Oh, we're getting into some deep words this morning. Where's the bell? Ontological, right? The beingness. In other words, that we praise fathers, we praise the mentors and the father figures in our life simply because they are. Not because you did something, but because you are. Because the male consciousness in this world grows up and learns that everything is based on whether you can do something or not. Can you build that? Can you do this? Can you provide? And it's all about success or failure based on doing this. And the beingness of the collective male psyche is soul starved for recognition. That's why it pumps up and tries to outperform everyone, because it's soul starved out of a lack of recognition for its anchored beingness. So if we want to bring a new humanity to the earth, we got to understand, we got to start recognizing, I see you because you are, right? I see you because you are, and that is enough. So we must shift from this consciousness of a subject, consciousness of a subject to a relational consciousness. In other words, Martin Buber, if you're playing along in the sermon reference bingo, Martin Buber, Jewish theologian, Buber. If you get Buber and Bieber in the same message, that's a triple threat there, but I don't think it's going to happen today. But Martin Buber said it's about a shift between an I-it relationship, right? I and it, the objectification of the world, and an I-thou relationship. And the I-thou relationship recognizes the ontological beingness, not only of the others that are standing before me, but of the universe itself, that the universe is a being. It's an I-thou relationship. It's an intimacy. It's a covenant of wholeness. And so when we anchor this in, when we expand in this awareness, we understand that we're no longer here to conquer the world or circumstances, that the masculine energy on the planet is not here to conquer the world or conquer circumstances, but seek to be in an evolutionary relationship with the whole. And yes, I'm here to provide, but I'm here to be in an evolutionary relationship with the whole. It's not about competing, beating anybody else out, or competing or winning. It's about understanding my contribution to the evolutionary whole of the planet. And so what we see is that love is that which is pulling us through this evolutionary period. Father's Day itself is an example of this. I was a young woman, back in the early 1900s in Spokane, Washington, the Pacific Northwest, who was sitting in church during a Mother's Day sermon, and she thought of her father. And she said, my dad should be recognized too. Where's Dad's Day, right? And so she went to work to activate, writing her congressperson and so on and so forth, and brought forward Father's Day out of an act of evolutionary love and inclusion, right? Through that moment. We're seeing this month, I've been seeing a lot of Major League Baseball, the Braves, my St. Louis Cardinals, the Major League Baseball itself, and lots of other companies and other places too, putting their logo in rainbow colors, right, for Pride. And it's very interesting. I belong to several groups on Facebook, and every time it happens on baseball, it's kind of like I kind of roll my eyes, not because I don't support it, I do, but because I know that the feed is going to be filled with all of these people like, I wish they would just stick to baseball. I wish they would keep politics out of it. And so I don't know if it connects with the message or not, but I'm going to address that right now. Right? Because again, what I want you to get here is that the love that is the thing that is pulling us through our evolutionary trajectory, that love is always about more inclusion. It's always about widening the circle. It's always about expanding who's recognized. It's always about moving. And once that, you can't put toothpaste back in the tube. Right? Once it's out, once we start recognizing more, it's just going to continue to grow. And it means that we're going to have to challenge our false notions of what we think the way the world is. I laugh because when I hear people who think, well, they should just stick to baseball, I'm like, they don't seem to understand the game very well. Because Major League Baseball, the difference between the National League and the American League about 100 years ago was whether you could have a beer or not. Because one league allowed alcohol at the games and the other league did not. And the other league prided themselves on their Christian moral values that you couldn't drink and smoke in the grandstands. It seems like a political social issue at the time. The same game decided people based on the color of their skin whether they could play or not, based on their gender whether they could play or not. Changed their minds about those things back and forth. The same game reaches into people's pocketbooks whether you're a baseball fan or not, to tap your tax dollars so they can build stadiums. It seems to me that the game of baseball has always been political and socially engaged. And so this myth of, oh, I wish they would just stick to baseball, I'm like, what fantasy world are you living in that it was never involved? Anyway, get off that soapbox. But you see, as we see more celebrations of companies recognizing Pride Month and celebrating that, that is, I would dare to say they really don't have a choice. Not because there's a political atmosphere that says they need to in order to stay relevant, but because there's an evolutionary pull within the consciousness of the planet that says this is where we're going. We're contextualized in this time period, and there's a trajectory that says recognize and love everyone for who they are. That toothpaste isn't going back in the tube. It's only going to go forward. And so we see, and this is why we see the celebration of Juneteenth as a national holiday, while at the same time we have states trying to eradicate and make it illegal to teach critical race theory, which, by the way, if you want to have a really great conversation, a spiritual conversation with somebody about all of that, just replace the phrase when they say, I don't want critical race theory taught in this school district or this, that, or the other. Just replace the phrase critical race theory with American history. Because that's actually what's taking place, right? The conversation is they're saying, I don't want the whole story, right, being told. I'm wearing a black ribbon today that I got yesterday at the Juneteenth celebration and recognition and remembrance in downtown Lawrenceville, in which we did the part of the Gwinnett Remembrance Project, collected soil on behalf of Charles Hale, who in 1911 was lynched in Lawrenceville. We collected soil, put it in 2 jars. One will go to the National African American Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. The other will stay in Gwinnett County, right? It's important to know when I take my family downtown to walk the park or to go to the restaurant or to get ice cream or coffee or whatever it is, that at this particular corner, this happened, right? To tell the whole story. And I was so proud to see, the mayor and city officials and all of the people that came out to tell this, no matter how painful it is. It's so much more painful when we hide from the story, right? When we can just tell the story of what happened, then love liberates us into another level of being. Love is always calling us forward, but it's calling us forward to say, first, you got to recognize what you're ignoring. Right? I can have a perfectly peaceful and easy relationship and conversation in my mind and in my heart about the role my father did not play in my life because I was willing to go through the uncomfortable period of confronting the pain of that. As long as I wasn't willing to look at the pain of that, I wasn't able to have an easy, comfortable relationship with it. But the moment that I said, I'm going to confront it, I'm going to look at it, I'm going to feel all the feels about it, I'm going to figure out what that's about for me. And why, and shake my fist and do all the things. And then love said, you're not going to stay there. You're going to go somewhere. You're going to evolve. You're going to expand. You're going to grow. But since you were willing to go through that point, I'll take you somewhere else, you see. And so this is what we're seeing. So we can't erase American history. We can't anymore, whether we call it critical race theory or whether we call it the last election. We can't change what is so. You can count I don't know how many times we're going to count in Arizona, but you can keep counting. The result really isn't going to change. We got to confront the pain that is there and then move forward. And you see, it's in those intersections, the intersectionality between our wholeness and our belongingness, that our spiritual growth takes place. I recognize in myself, in my own spiritual journey, that my belongingness, a sense of belonging, was taken for granted as being a cisgendered white male in this society. My belongingness and wherever I went was really never questioned. And that gave me the freedom then to explore my relationship with my wholeness. Similarly, I have friends of African-American descent who understand from the spiritual upbringing that they were given that their wholeness was to not be questioned, that who they were, regardless of how the world framed them, that who they were was whole, perfect, and complete. And that anchoredness and that spiritual truth that the Gospels gave them and that their family and their upbringing gave them allowed them to confront the sense of belongingness in the world and be about part of that journey. And what I've come to know is that it's in that intersection of those two things that when we step into the fullness of our spiritualized purpose, we would see, as Emerson discovered, self-reliance was not so much about individual independence, but it was about self-reliance on the spiritual self, on the universal self. And if we're anchored in a self-reliance on that universal self, on that universal love, on that universal presence of that kind, then that is the same self that is in you. That is the same self that is in you. That is the same self that is in everyone. And but if my anchoring in it, I end up seeing the systems of inequity and the forms of oppression that keep you from it, regardless of who you may be. In that moment that I see it, it becomes incumbent upon me to participate in your liberation. It becomes incumbent upon me to participate in the dismantling of the systems and structures that would keep you from the same self that I am claiming to be self-reliant upon. And if I don't do that, and this is, by the way, what Emerson discovered, right? If I don't do that, then my self-reliance is nothing more than a fancy, self-secured and self-secluded importance. But Emerson said, I'm not here to empower people to be self-secluded, isolated islands of importance. No, I'm here to inspire them to be self-reliant on this universal self. But he, in his own journey, discovered that required for him to see the oppression of others and become an advocate, an abolitionist in his own work. I think we need to go back and read some more Emerson, because I think we've gotten them a little bit wrong in our self-imported American individualism this day. But that's another class. We might get to it in that Begin Again class, by the way. And so with all of this, we see that the gift of wholeness and belonging has already been given to us. And we are here to father it in our own lives and to father it in the world for others, to take responsibility for it, to recognize the ontological beingness of our male-identified friends and family, so that that wounded masculinity can be liberated into giving the gifts that it's here to give, and to participating in the whole evolution of humanity. And then together we continue to create a world that works for everyone. As I close this morning, I want to read lines. Some of you will surely recognize these lines. It was used in the closing prayer at yesterday's service in downtown Lawrenceville from the African American national anthem. Stony the rod we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come away over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughter. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou hast brought us thus far on the way. Thou who has led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where they meet, lest our hearts drunk on the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. We take in a breath. We see and feel and sense the evolutionary pull of love in our life to include more, to expand more, to heal, and to uplift. And as we make a commitment to doing that for ourselves, we create a vibration in which all of humanity is raised up in that space. So for this and so much more in this day, I'm truly grateful and thankful as I allow it to be. And so it is.
Thank you, Dr. David. Wow. Yeah. When we are filled, like I offered today, that we're having a meal sitting at the table, I am fulfilled. Those messages are important. We all have fathers, we all have relationships with them. And to see things in a new light lifts us, makes us change, shifts us. You can't put a dollar amount on that, but you can give in the flow. Circulate. We can circulate. So that which is given and received, we want to give. Giving, receiving, giving, receiving, inhale, exhale. It's a handshake. It's a connection. So to sit and receive and not circulate is against the circulation, the law of circulation. I want to be more of this. So I give. And in grateful giving, we are priming the pump for our own lives. We are becoming more of that. We're becoming more with that. So you can text, you can mail. There's a song, like all the different ways you can love somebody, but you can text, you can, I do regular tithing. I just set it on auto deposit and there it is because I'm priming my pump. Please give because it fits, it supports you and your life more than the center. It supports the center and that's the idea, but watch what happens when you give regularly. So text, send it in when you come in person. There's so many ways to give. We appreciate that. So if you'd like to join me in the affirmation for grateful giving, I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow. All that I share with life returns to me, multiplied abundantly, and so it is.
We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. We see a world that works for everyone. We see a world that works for everyone. Everyone, everyone. Yeah. Everyone, have a beautiful morning, everyone. Thanks for being with us.